We have been on this topic for a while, but we should actually talk about the Mark Zuckerberg seeing dead people. So one of the things that Lex Fridman said shortly, not very long into the interview at all, he said one of the first thing that came to mind is him wanting to speak to loved ones in this 3D space. And then the next thing that comes to mind is being able to speak to loved ones that are no longer with us. And Zuckerberg said that this is possible with with the inclusion of AI, but there is. I want to make sure I get this right, because this is this is a serious thing. Zuckerberg recognizes that with this technology combined with the possibility of an AI, with possibly an AI curated to loved ones responses, there could be extreme benefits for allowing a grieving individual to interact with a virtual version of someone who has passed away. However, Zuckerberg notes there is an extent to this interaction that could become unhealthy, and that he isn't an expert in the psychology surrounding this, so Meta would have to perform studies to understand it in more detail. Yeah. So basically what he's saying is that an AI would be fed all of the information about your loved one and essentially create an AI version of your loved one. So I'm guessing you would put in all of your loved one's interests, and I'm not sure how it would work. And then that is impregnated into the codec. And now you are sitting in front of your loved one that is no longer in the physical world, communicating with it in the virtual world. Now, I don't know if that's a good idea.
No. But it's possible, right? I think a more fun version of this is that, let's say this exact technology that we're seeing here in the podcast, right? Let's say, because it requires all that scanning to get your facial muscles, all that facial scanning, just so it can render your face and as you're talking. So all it is capturing your dialogue and then using all the information it does to render it and do that magic, right? Let's just say you've got a version where it's like a celebrity, or even just like Mark Zuckerberg, right? Where AI now, like the latest update to Chat GPT, and even they said they're going to limit who can have access to this technology, is that with 5 seconds of audio of somebody speaking, they can accurately recreate their voice to say anything. Or do
their
anything
cadence and everything.
And speak, right? And AI you can have conversations with, right? So the technology is here for them to release a version of this where it is Zuckerberg's voice, because they've got enough of it, where an AI can do it, and it can say anything, and you could just converse with an AI that looks and sounds like a celebrity or somebody that's had their face scanned.
Which is bizarre.
Which is just bizarre.
It's so weird. Yeah. And I don't think any of those facial, you know how you were saying it's their face has been scanned and their voice has been taken. That doesn't mean that it comes with their personality. So if you're communicating with Snoop Dogg, as he was displayed as the dungeon master during the event or whatever, it's not actually Snoop Dogg. It just looks like Snoop Dogg and it sounds like Snoop Dogg, but it doesn't do any of the things that Snoop Dogg would do. So why would I want to communicate with them?
Yeah. And
it's an empty shell.
Black Mirror. So there was that one of the very first episodes of it when it was when it was just in the UK. So one of it was basically based on that, where you could speak with a loved one. So it's a woman who speaks to her recently deceased husband who died young in a car crash, right?
Yep.
And so it creates almost like a lifelike robot of him, and it has his voice or whatever recreated by AI, but it recreated his entire personality based on all the information that existed of them online. So it's only what you post on social media, and what information is about you online, right?
Yeah.
So she immediately, or not immediately, but then gradually it's this is creepy, because yes, it knows everything about him and a lot of information is correct, but it's a version that isn't real.
Yeah.
So even if you were to if AI was to scrape everything about a celebrity online, all the interview appearances and talk shows and stuff like that. It could create a version that knows enough about them that it would seem kind of realistic, but it wouldn't be real. You know what I mean?
I think it would feel hollow.
Yeah.
I feel like that's going to be a human, a bit of human intuition. Like that's a human feeling sitting, like say even for this podcast, for example, it's like we are still communicating fluidly. I don't feel like you're here though.
No.
And to
in spirit.
I mean, yeah, of course, in spirit, Tweetown spirit. But to be able to bridge that gap, I think it's going to take something really special, and scanning with a lot or like feeding a large language model a bunch of data about someone. I feel like you would need it maybe like maybe if they did like Joe Rogan or something, because he's got like 1900 episodes of a podcast of him speaking
would it
for
be 100% realistic though? It still wouldn't be.
No, I still feel like if you had that photorealistic version sitting of Joe Rogan in front of you, you still can feel that it's not human.
I think it'll work best as like a fictional character, right?
Yes,
like,
that's exactly right.
You just want to like hang out with Indiana Jones and
that
Iron
would be
Man,
wild.
Spider-Man, right? And there's enough information about those characters that just scans every book and comic or movie and stuff like that. And then like in that sort of instance, I just don't think,
because you have the suspension of disbelief in that.
Recreating real people, I think it's too much of a gray area as well, where it's like,
where do you stop?
It can be used in such a bad way.
Yeah.
And it could have potential damage that we don't know or even understand, especially because like Zuckerberg says, like psychology and stuff like that, you don't know what.
People would live, if their partner died, they would just live in the virtual world speaking to someone that doesn't exist, which is, I mean, that's so grim. Anyway.